Now, we do actually have a large group here today. So to keep things moving and speeding along, I'm just going to invite you just to drop a line in the chat box, just with where you're joining us from today. Just a word, from the city or the town, wherever you're from. We just love to see where everyone's joining us from. We get people from the UK, from Singapore, from New Zealand, from Australia, in all different places. So we just, Bris Vegas, love it. Singapore, Northern Beaches, Sydney, Singapore, singers, Jules says. Another one in Singapore, Sydney, Bondi, great, John. You're just down the road from me. Belgrave in Melbourne today, that's awesome. Thanks, Paul. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing that. While you're carrying on doing that, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Cindy Nicholson. I'm the founder and the CEO of Braintree, which is a global executive coaching and leadership organization. And we really focus on transforming individuals and organizations through self-development to enable people to break through the barriers that are holding them back so they can really realize their true potential. And it's funny because often my clients call me the business psychologist, and I just relish in that positive, life-changing impact that we offer. And it's what I'm really, really passionate about. And that's why I'm here hosting this session today, because I'm passionate about the things we do to help other people. And at Braintree, we talk about collaboration, ecosystems, networks in our leadership program. So I believe that I should be practicing what I preach. And so here we are. Now, I'll be a bit vulnerable here because this is a bit of a vulnerable space. But about 12 years ago, something you didn't know about me was that I went through a divorce then. And I had 2 young children, had a big hefty mortgage and a really full-on job running a software company for financial services industry, covering the whole of Asia Pacific. So it was a pretty stressful time. And a friend actually suggested to me, why don't you take up the services of a coach? And I thought, coach, what does a coach do? I had no idea whatsoever. So I hesitantly took up that option, and I just found it completely life-changing. It was just such a positive experience. And so from that day onwards, I decided, I really want to qualify as a coach, because first and foremost, I wanted to do it for my children, for myself, and for my profession. And, 10 years later, here I am, and here we are. I don't know how many people we have on. I think there was 35, 40 people who are registered to join. So it's fabulous that you're all here, and we're going to have a really, really good time. So now, question. In the chat box, what I'd like you to do is just enter a number from 1 to 10 that reflects how positive you're feeling today. As I said, no one's going to judge you. If you've had a really bad day and you want to put 1 in there, it's okay. If you've had a really good day, put 10, and we want to know what your tricks are. But if you've got anything in between, then feel free to share that. So we've got a 7, a 10, and we've got a few 10s. So we really want to know what your tricks are. 6s, 9s, 7s, 8s. That's really good. That's really good. So we've got a really good room of positive people. Oh, Brian, you had a win. So you're number 10. We can't wait to hear about that. Fantastic. Okay. Well, that's good to see. And hopefully what we're going to be able to do is raise that even more for you. So that's what we're going to be looking at doing today. So does anybody have any questions at this point in time? Everyone knows where the chat box is. Everyone's ready to go. So you might be able to tell from my accent that I'm British, and I'm sure that you're not the only one who's feeling the pain at the moment of the incredible loss that we've all seen this week, or last week, sorry, with Queen Elizabeth II. So, I follow the royal family quite closely. A lot of my friends know that I'm quite a bit of a royalist, but I'm proud to say that. And often I receive social updates, social media updates and so on. And this one in particular caught my eye, which is something that Kate Middleton has shared. So I wanted to share that with you today. But the headline really is that sometimes it's just a simple conversation that can make things better. I really invite you to take part in this conversation here today, because according to Kate, that simple action alone can make things a lot better for everyone. So we've got some 6s, 8s, 7s. We're going to bring those up, hopefully just by having a conversation today. Now, also a little bit earlier today, we sent out a poll, and we just said to people, what are the things that you're sort of finding when you're approaching life every day? What are some of the challenging situations that pop up that you kind of want to put onto the table today. And I quickly grabbed some of those and just popped them into, you can see some of them say anonymous, but that's just picked it up from the names. But essentially, to share with you some of the things that came up were challenges around dealing with the routine of everyday life, work and other, toxic individualism, managing time, workload and stress, remaining neutral when most aspects of life seem to be chaotic, in terms of work, stress, finance, finding a partner in life, etc. The overwhelm of conflicting demands, work, children, aging parents, all challenges being part of the sandwich generation. I love that one. And somebody else said, I get angry in my mind about people behaving with ugly motives and I attack them mentally. So that person's really opened up quite vulnerably there. And, they're saying it's a useless energy waste and they never attack these people in real life, but mentally that's going on. So there's all that negative chatter that's happening in our head. How can they reduce that? Yeah, the good news is that in this session, we're going to look at a tool that would hopefully be able to help every one of those situations that everybody's raised. It's quite a generic tool and hopefully it's going to be something that you'll all be able to take away today. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have heard this saying, but when you talk about how different things manifest themselves, it's often driven from an initial thought, a thought you have about something. Doesn't matter what that is. It can be positive, can be negative, but it's a thought that starts. It's only a thought. It's nothing tangible. It's just a thought. And then that thought turns into some sort of feeling. And the feeling that you then have results in some sort of action. So we think, that turns into a feeling, and then that turns into some sort of action. And how we process that transformation has this profound impact on what it means for you, either in that moment or just in a day or even in a lifetime, because often those thoughts and the feelings and the actions might be hardcored from when you were a child, and they just come up time and time again, and they're habits that are there and you don't necessarily like them, but that's what's going on. So as we move through this session, I really want to be able to share with you something that you can take away as a tool that you'll be able to use long after this session is completed today. So we're going to have a look at the ABCs of positive thinking. Now, at the end of this session, we will send you an email and the worksheet will be on there. So don't worry about taking notes right now. Just immerse yourself into the program and really just sit with it, just go with the flow, and you'll have the worksheet, as I said, later on, so you can always come back and reapply the same practice in your own time. And you can often find that you might even want to use this for your family or for your friends or your colleagues or even your own team. So this is our gift to you for today for Positive Thinking Day. So we're going to work through that with you today. And it's also going to help you learn situations that you start to feel more stressed out in, and you're going to be able to learn how to manage that. So if everyone's comfortable, everyone knows where the chat box is, if everyone's got a pen or paper or even just their computer they can just jump onto, just grab a notepad or that computer, make a few notes, because we're going to actually embrace this exercise right here, right now. So brace yourselves. Hold on tight. We're going to go in for this. Now, what we're going to be doing is discovering your ineffective beliefs or thoughts, and then we're going to replace them with more positive, effective thoughts. So hopefully that sounds good. We're going to discover those ineffective beliefs and thoughts and replace them with more positive and effective thoughts. So drop a Y in the chat box if that sounds good, because I think it sounds fantastic. Yes. Oh, and Mel's also a royalist, she's just told me. So that's amazing. Thanks, Mel. Now, why is this process actually really important? Well, ineffective thoughts can make it very difficult for you to stay calm and to make really good decisions that you can be comfortable with. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to think of an experience that you've had recently where you felt that your stress levels were elevated, and just jot that down on a page or drop it on your computer, however you want to capture that thought. And we're going to be sharing this with some of the people in the group later. So if you can think of an experience that you had recently where you really felt that that stress level was elevated, Just pop that down. So once you've done that, if you've got that idea in your mind, the experience that you can remember fairly recently, just type done in the chat box. Great. Sharmini, Mel, Jules, thank you. Paul, John, excellent. Liz, Rebecca, with a smile. Zena, great. Yeah, so that experience that you had where you really felt your stress levels were elevated. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jot down the actions that actually occurred just before you felt that tense or that sense of stress elevation. What came up for you before you got upset? Like what triggered that? So if it was somebody, you know, a loved one maybe became impatient with you, or you got yelled at work, or somebody cut you off in the car, whatever it was, what was the action that actually happened just before you had that feeling of elevated stress? And again, once you've done that, if you can just drop done or yes or something in the chat box so we know you're all ready. Fabulous. Great. So we've captured and noted an experience where our stress levels were elevated, and we've now recognized the action or the event that took place that created that feeling. And the next thing we'll look at is on the screen there you can see B for belief, so ineffective belief or thought. So what was the belief or the thought that was actually going through your mind after that action took place? So if it was a loved one who had been upset or impatient with you, what did that trigger for you? What was that belief that you really felt at that point in time? You know, did you feel that you weren't a good enough partner, or you'd let somebody down? What was that belief that you were really feeling and thinking at the time? And just jot that down. And again, just once you've done that, just click done or Y or in something in the chat box so I can see that you're all good. Great, thanks AJ, Sharmini, Evelyn, Mel, Ravi, thank you. Jules, John, Liz, thank you. And then the final step of that is to describe what happened as a consequence of that thought. So what was going on for you as a consequence? Like, were you feeling frustrated? Were you feeling sad? Were you feeling disappointed? What was that consequence that came up for you? What was that result? So we've covered those 4 points. We've looked at what was the action, what was the experience that you had when your stress levels were elevated, you felt negative. What were the actions that happened just before that to trigger it? And then what was the belief that was going on for you? What were you saying to yourself when that action took place? And then the consequences of that. So how were you feeling as a consequence of that? Were you frustrated, sad, inadequate, whatever the feeling was? Okay, so what I'd like to do is invite you to just break out into a group and share with each other those things that have come up for you, what those experiences were, what the actions were, what the beliefs were, and what the consequences were. Okay, everybody's back in the room. Welcome back, welcome back. I hope that was an energizing conversation for you all. And interested, you know, if you felt you had enough time, or if you felt a little bit that you had too much time, love to have some feedback. Hopefully you all got to have some really, really good conversations and obviously talk about those experiences and those actions and the beliefs and those consequences. But now this is where we're going to try to, so we're just going to have a look now back at that original belief or thought that came up. Look at how we can think of alternative ways that action can lead to a more positive consequence or result. For example, if we talked about the action was that, you know, a loved one became impatient with me, and I chose to sort of, you know, create my own beliefs, or had my own beliefs and my own emotional state with that. And I thought others have feelings of impatience, and you know, how do you sort of process that in your own mind? But if you can kind of twist it a little bit to say, well, actually what they're feeling, their emotional state is really not necessarily mine to own. So the feelings of that impatience from others is not necessarily judgments about me or my ability. It's just that maybe they're having a bad morning, or maybe something else is going on in their lives. If you can just cast your minds back to think about that experience, that action that happened, what is it that you could do differently in terms of your belief that came up that could actually turn that around into a much more positive consequence. So as we gave the example, if a loved one was impatient with you, rather than thinking, oh, I've done something to upset them, or whatever the belief and the default is for you, thinking of things like, well, maybe actually that's their own thing going on, and I don't need to judge myself or feel that I have the inability to work with my partner on that issue. So whatever the particular situation was for you, if you can maybe have a think about what would be something you could do to change that belief in your own mind so that the consequence is much more positive. You don't have that stress or that sadness or that judgment on yourself. So I'm just going to put you back into the rooms just for a couple of seconds to share that with your group, just to have that sort of reflection. Then we'll come back into the room and then we'll keep going from there. Okay, looks like everybody's back now. Excellent. Hopefully you had some interesting conversations. I hope you're all inspiring for each other. I'm going to open it up to the floor now. I'd love to hear what was going on in those rooms.
Well, yeah, I had a good group, and with Mel and the guys, and just on my side, I basically said, well, one of the issues that I do have is it's actually time management, which is the root of it. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I told them in Scotland we have a Macallan's whiskey to help us, and but apart from that, it's almost, I don't know. You've just got to take action, and a couple of the guys rightly said, do you know what? You can't just, as you said, you can't own this in a sense. You just have to do the best you can. And at the end of the day, it's I look at it and say, well, has anyone died in this situation? I'm sorry, I know that sounds a bit terrible, but as you said the last time, my own personal experience, I was given 2 months to live. Yeah, that was 10 years ago. Right. Okay, so yes, I do have a different perspective. Yeah, and but I find that helps me. And I mean, my wife disagrees with me, of course, but anyway, hey, who am I? But honestly, if you can put it in perspective and say, let's go through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whatever it is, works for you. And I also find, take action. Yeah, if you take action, that's a big help. Because another thing I do, I admit it, is procrastinate. Yeah, I'll get back to you. And you feel a good intentions, but it never happens. You've just got to do it now, And that's a couple of things I find useful. But no, it's good sharing it with things with the groups, I think, as well, Cindy. That was a good idea, just to sort of, we're not alone. We're not alone. And that's the important thing. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Robert. And I think that the big key takeaway I pick up from that is, asking yourself, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen?
Yes.
And, if you're really stressing and you do ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I'll have to share with you today, I had a family event of the situation that I had to go and deal with, and it held me back. And I was literally racing back to my office to start this webinar. And I was in the car thinking, I'm not going to make it, and everyone's going to be on the call. And I thought, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I know I'm only 3 minutes away, so people will wait for 3 minutes. I can apologise and we can get started, and it's going to be okay. So it was one of the. I thought if I panic, I'll come in and everything will be going wrong. The technology will go wrong. Everything will go wrong. Anybody else like to share?
Yeah, that was good. We used my ongoing delightful joy of recruitment. And I said I've got pretty good at it now, but it is, I had chats with you, and I was saying, one of the things is I've got a friend, she says, you've got 10 minutes, you can rage, and then I'm cutting you off. We'll switch context, and I find that's very effective, and I do it with myself. I get frustrated with the outcome. So
going back to the point about Catherine and saying that the conversation, just having the conversation can often just change that situation quite well. So I hope you all got a lot out of being in those sessions and working together. I couldn't be a fly on the wall in every room, but I'm really hoping that you all, had a really good experience. And I'm conscious we're coming up to 6 o'clock, and I know people have got things to do. I'm sure that, well, for Robert, I know you're over in Scotland, so it's your day's just starting. So you're going to have a fantastic day ahead of you. Positive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody else probably sort of started to get hungry and wanting to get on with other things. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us for this session today. We don't have a lot of time. An hour can go very, very quickly, but I think, having a group of people together with different perspectives and views, I really do genuinely hope that you got value from each other. And I really want to just say thank you for giving up your time and for being here today and trusting us to bring value to you. And we really believe in paying things forward. So, we want to happily share this with you. We'll send the tool to you so you can then look at that in your own time, maybe share it with your family and friends. I said, teams, colleagues, anybody who you want. And that's part of paying it forward. And, on the theme of paying it forward, if you do feel like you want to contribute to that, if you'd be kind enough to maybe just take a second to drop a couple of words into any of our social media platforms that can just, really sort of emphasize your experience and what you really felt that you got today from the positive day session, we would really appreciate that, because again, it just helps to spread the word, and we can share this with other people as well, inside and outside our group. But look, as we close off the session, I just wonder if you can reflect on how you were feeling at the beginning. Remember, we did the rating of 1 to 10, and some of you were up there at 10. I hope I haven't brought you down. I hope you're still up there. And some of you were like a 6, a 7, an 8. I'd really be keen to see what you grade yourself at now that we've finished the session. Just drop it in the chat box, share with everybody what you think, scale of 1 to 10. Oh, that's great, Mel. 7 to a solid 8.5, 9. Fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant. That's made my night. That's really, really good. So we always want to know that we've made a difference. So that's awesome. And I don't know if you know that old saying that there's the child walking along the beach, and they're throwing starfish back into the water, and there's just millions of them all over the beach, and everyone's going, well, why are you even bothering? Like, how on earth can you possibly get all of those starfish back into the water? And this old man sort of talking to this young boy, saying, you can't save it all, you can't change everything, but it's great that you're making an effort. And he said, well, I can make a bit of a difference. He said, if I can pick up this one starfish and throw it back in the water, then I've made a difference to that one. So if, with all of you being on this tonight, there's millions and billions of people in the world come away from this and we're feeling more positive, well, then that's a really great result. So we've had a week 8 to solid 9. Fantastic. Thanks, John. Jules, 6 to 8. Great. Fantastic. And Evelyn, 5 to 7. And whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey. Yeah. That's from EJ and myself,
Yeah, I took that. I'm gonna have one tonight, mate. I love that. What you said, I really, yeah.
Go for it, man. Yeah. I recommend it. Yeah, I recommend it. They don't have it down in England, but never mind. Nobody's perfect,
I'm not in England. I'm in Australia, so it should be fine. I can find one in the bottle shop.
Australia is one of my favourite country. I love it.
There you go.
That's another matter. But yeah, very, very briefly, I would say for a couple of reasons, again, time management, I was a 6 when I started this. I'm actually up at a 9 to 9.5 categorically. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, you get the prize.
Yay!
And the prize is a whiskey.
Absolutely. That'll do nicely.
Well, we've got an excuse. It's after 5 o'clock here. I don't know about you, Robert, but
Oh, well, no. In Scotland, we have it for breakfast with our porridge, Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. Oh.
But it's very entertaining here. We've had sort of round-the-clock coverage, obviously, of the Queen's passing.
Yep.
But because it's all in Scotland, it's really entertaining watching the media commentators, and they'll ask the Scottish general public a question, and they're like, right.
Yeah.
I've got no idea what
they haven't a clue. It's brilliant.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing. So, Rob, seeing you, and basically, I know it started off as a whiskey thing. It was all funny. But what you did say, something deep, was you had 2 months to live, and you've basically, it's now 10 years. That's pretty deep to whatever we are going through in life. It's pretty much nothing, and you
Yes.
turn the spin around by whiskey and your laugh and everything, mate.
Yeah.
It makes me
Yep.
feel like,
Yeah.
dude, there's a lot more in life than just whatever we are going through, especially listening to you. And thanks for sharing that. You know, I take
You know,
that as a very good thing from this session
thanks,
for me.
AJ. Yeah, thanks. Because I'll tell you, that was my experience. It was incurable multiple myeloma cancer. But, you know, 3 things I found useful. Number 1, great family support. Yeah. Number 2, great medical team. Number 3, I've got a very positive mindset. Yeah. And it's an appropriate day to say that. I might be overrunning a little bit in time. But again, going back to the starfish story, if we can save one life, and that's what the doctor said to me, he said, talk about it. I said, I didn't want to talk about it. It's, you know, Jesus. And but over the last 10 years, I've done quite a few presentations to patients that have just been diagnosed. Yeah. And they say, my God, well, I've got nothing to worry about, have I? You know, and I said, no, you haven't, you know. And by the way, I'd always been successful in business, you know, obnoxiously so. And it took me, how can I put this? It gave me humility. Yeah, because, you know, by a number of standards, I lost everything, you know, bloody house, money, all that crap. And it's meaningless. So I've been where most people don't want to go. Yeah, but I made it back. Yeah. So it was like Icarus flying too close to the sun. I got it all, lost it all, got it back again. And no doubt I'll lose it again, but I'll get it back again. Yeah. And nothing will stop me from that. So that's what I took away from this session. Just talking to other people. Yeah. And telling the truth. Veritas, the truth will set you free. Yeah. And I've enjoyed this, and genuinely it's pushed me up as well, because I look at the thing that was, excuse the language, you know, pissing me off this morning, right? And you know, I just turned the other phone off and says, well, I'm not going to solve your problem. I pay you to sort the problem yourself, you know. And this was more important to me, and I'm really glad I did. That's why I'm up from 6 to 9.5. Yeah. And yeah, good stuff. And I've enjoyed your company, AJ, Mel, and the team, you know, and Cindy. So that's all I want to say. Yeah.
So look, again, conscious, we've probably just got a minute left. For everybody who is still on the call, those who are my current clients, associates, and so on, they always know that I give away something at the end of every webinar. And you are going to receive an email from us later, which will have the worksheet for what we've just gone through today. You will be able to go back and have a look at that and, you know, do that in your own time and share it with your friends and colleagues. And the other thing too is that we always will offer you a half an hour session. So I'm actually a mental health practitioner as well. And obviously I have a huge focus around positive thinking. I always look at positive ways in coaching. So if you were interested in just understanding a little bit more for yourself, if you've got a slight issue that you want to talk through with me, feel free to jump in and just book a time for half an hour where you can do all of that. And because you've joined us today, you're eligible for 30% off any of our products and services that might be of interest to you. And that could be as low as even just start joining one of our group sessions at $25. That gives you access into our VIP group where you'll get other free resources and information. As I said, we are all about networking, ecosystems, collaboration, and supporting one another. So with that being said, I just want to thank you one more time for joining us this afternoon, this morning. Do feel free to check out the website, anything in there that you're interested in, talk to us about it. We're here for you. I just wish you all a very, very happy, positive thinking day for what's left of it in Australia and for the day ahead for you there in Scotland, Robert. So thank you all.
Fantastic.
See you next time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Robert. Bye.
Thank
for now,
you.
everybody. Pleasure. Bye for now.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
cheers guys. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.